to explore more of or for the first time. There's definitely characters that both Marvel and DC I haven't touched or drawn that I'd like to. As far as things I don't like to draw, I would say, yeah, any animal, pretty much. In All-Star Batman and Robin, I drew like a rat, and it was really hard drawing that rat. I had to Google like Ratatouille. I Google, I think Ed McGuinness drew a rat that, I just look for other, because alright, so the trick with drawing animals is I can't just draw an animal, because it won't, everything I draw has to feel like it fits into the same universe as my figures and my cars, everything, like it's all, I spend hours and hours working on that, right? I don't. But anyway, so I do want it to look like it could exist in that world, and so I have to, the same way the human physique is exaggerated, I want to do something with the animals but I'm not sure exactly what, right? Is it in the faces? Is it in, are they super muscular? How much cross-hatching do I do? Are these rats uplit? Are they snarling? All these things, right? And so then I had to draw like Crypto in Batman Hush. That was really laborious. So I don't know if they even look like animals, to be honest. I think they look like cartoons of animals. But I have like 5 dogs and a cat now. I still can't draw any of them. So, they're mysterious to me. It's because their joints are all different, right? Right? You guys know this, right? Right? Arm, forearm. Easy. Oh my God, what the hell is it? Oh my God, what is that? That looks like the devil to me, all right? I don't know what that is, but why is it broken like that? Right? And that's I don't know, that's weird. That's the back leg, right? Isn't it?
It's the foot.
The foot. I still refer to our dogs like, our dog, I'll go, Louis' hand is in that. I'm like, that's not a hand, they're 4 legs, right? I still think of him with 2 legs and 2 arms, right? But it's 4 legs. Anyway, so, ooh. It's like those girls that can pop their elbows out. Like, I don't know how that works. Anyway.
Anyway, that's something.
Hello? This I can. Cats are really hard too, so I think All-Star Batman and Robin, there's a scene with Selena Kyle with all these cats. But I think I only drew 2 cats and then I traced the other ones so they look mirror flopped and stuff like that. It's so embarrassing. You would think I'd be a professional. Yeah, does that sound better? Yeah, great, fantastic. All right, awesome.
Sorry about that.
It's not good. Yeah, so horses are even crazier. I think I drew one, Conan. See, it's so rare, I can name every instance. Like Conan the Barbarian, there's a cover where Conan's on a horse, but it looks like a man wearing a horse costume with a horse. Like, if you look at the legs, they look like human legs, and then the front part looks like... But there are artists that can draw animals like crazy. They're so good at it. And the reason why, it's a whole different anatomy, right? The body moves in completely different ways than a human does. And so I just have never invested the time, I think, that would be required to make it look right. Because it's not like they just can run like they normally would. You have to exaggerate it the same way the figures are exaggerated in their motions in the comic book, right? When Batman kind of is on a rooftop, he's got this exaggerated pose, so what would a dog look like in that world? He can't just look like can't look like a sketch, like where I'm sitting with a pad of paper and drawing my dog. It would look too plain, it would look too lifeless. So I have to figure out a way
to plus it up. And that's where it gets harder. All right. Yes?
Hi, I'm just wondering what your opinions are on the creative changes for Batman Hush.
Okay. No, I want to. No, I won't spoil it. Who did I see today in line? Crap, I can't remember. Hold on 1 second. I can't remember. Anyway, so let me just say, I think there's some people that really have liked it, and a lot of people who have not liked it. And people who haven't liked it, as far as I can tell on Twitter, which is always so positive and supportive in most things in life. I was so shocked to see negativity online. Is this the right feed? I was tapping my phone, right? And so they weren't happy that it didn't look like the drawings, the art. And I think the people that made the show probably had, things they had to address going forward. It's like, okay, is this going to be a direct adaptation of the graphic novel? Are we going to do something kind of different to surprise viewers? Because I don't think most people want to go in and do a direct translation of something. They kind of want to make it a little bit their own and infuse it with something. And I don't blame them for that. And also, they had invested themselves into creating this shared universe, so the movies all kind of have tied together, and so they've got costumes that they use that were kind of inspired by the New 52. Although in Batman Hush, they do get him back into his traditional blue and gray costume through storytelling. So I think, if they had slavishly kind of followed the storyline, then I think fans would be like, hey, there was nothing new. It was just kind of, they translated it. They too slavishly followed it. So it's a little bit of a no-win, but I get what fans are saying. If they like something, they want to see it. And I think that's true of any adaptation, whether it's a book, Game of Thrones, it's just Star Wars. But it's not on that level. There's no petitions to Warner Brothers to remake Hush, right? You guys are not that level, right? So that's a positive sign. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But I enjoyed it, and it's definitely a little more risque than I remember the comic book being, right?
Yeah.
So now people are going to rush out and see it. Okay, cool. Yes, sir.
My question is, when you were first starting out, what was your inspiration to kind of set yourself apart from other artists?
What was my inspiration? I don't know if there was an inspiration. I knew that, I think there's a stigma in, it's good to look like other popular artists, but there's a stigma in being too similar to those artists, right? And a lot of artists that have done that have had to battle that. So I knew that even though my favorite artists were like people like John Byrne, George Perez, Frank Miller, Art Adams, Mike Mignola, Barry Windsor-Smith, like all those people I really, really admired, but I knew that if I looked too much like them, that I would be just perceived as like a clone of them or a second-rate version of them. And so even though when I was trying to learn how to draw, I would often be looking at their work. I would never trace it. I would always look at it and try to figure out the structure of what they were doing and how to replicate that. But then I realized there was a point that I realized if I had like a box of comics of my favorite drawn, my most favorite drawn comic books, and I realized that it was a crutch, right? That I should, if I want to really develop what my style is, and at that point I didn't really know what it was, but whatever was me in the back of my head, it could only come free if I stopped looking at anything else and relied more on my own internal kind of thoughts and imagery. And so I put that box away, and it was hard. And I basically drew as much as I could from what I saw in my head, and it took a long time, but I think out of that emerged kind of the style. and it was there was nothing really. It was amalgam of all the stuff that I loved as a kid, sort of put through this filter of, all right, I've got this amount of time, what can I draw? And but then it was also then influenced thereafter by other artists. You know, I went through this kind of big eye phase that was inspired, I think, by like what Jeff Campbell was doing in the 90s. And then I was influenced by what Travis Tress was doing. So like other people in the studio that worked with us, we all kind of influenced one another. And that's fun. Like, I think once you figure out kind of your base style, it's nice to explore other additional styles on top of it to kind of keep it fresh and interesting to yourself. Yes, sir. We'll go back. I'm going to doing all first row questions here, but I will move back. Yes.
Do you still own comics? And do you buy anything recently?
Yes, I do. What did I buy? I bought Fantastic Four #1. Yeah, it was like 8 point. I don't know. I buy a lot of slam books, which is weird. So I'm buying comics that I don't read, but I think there's nothing wrong with it. It's about taking something that's something that means something to you emotionally and closing it in cold, hard plastic so that no one can touch it and smell it. But I like it because it transforms itself into like a jewel or something, like jewelry. And then I put it in a safe so I never look at it ever again. So I have this weird thing about like a squirrel. I get cool things and I hide them. I bury them in the ground. And so maybe twice a year I open up the safe and I look at the comics. But because I get all the other stuff for free. So I get, so I get as many DC comics as I want, and then we trade comics with like all the other publishers, like Image, Dark Horse, and Marvel. So I get all their books as well. So but I did go to the store the other day looking to buy a copy of House of X, right? Is that what it's called? They were sold out. I said, screw this business. This is so fun. That was like 2 days after the comic book came out. Like, how are we going to grow this damn business if a comic book shop does not? And this is a true story. I was a little miffed. I was like, this is not, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, don't get me started. But I'm just saying, there's things that need to be improved, and yeah. So that was one of the things. But so I do occasionally buy comics, but a lot of them are just like old comics that I just kind of lusted after when I was younger that I could never afford. And I've slowly been buying them over the years. And Fantastic Four one's pretty valuable, right? I think, yeah. I'm hoping that Disney does a good job with the movie and the value will rise. I'm like one of those people, right? All right. You sir back there.
My question was, one, how it's like sort of a two-parter. How many iterations of the Joker do you think you've drawn? Because you've drawn.
This is version 3.2. I have. Yeah.
And
Which one do you want to see? Is there a different?
I'm just asking because you've drawn Batman All-Star and then you drew Batman Hush and you've drawn other ones. How many, and within your training of doing it, how many do you think you personally have been like, oh, I keep changing these slight things about him?
Yeah, so this is, so when I did Batman Hush, I did a much more pronounced nose and chin. It was very influenced by Dave McKean's Arkham Asylum. He actually built a Joker mask, and a lot of those images are just photographs of this mask in weird lighting. But I thought it looked so different and scary and nightmarish, so I tried to infuse some of that. But then I realized he didn't fit into the rest of the Hush world. Everyone else looked fairly normal. No one ever said like, wow, you look really weird. Like, it was so odd that no one even understood that. So I started dialing it back. Especially when we did All-Star Batman and Robin, Frank Miller was like, hey, let's do a scary version of the Joker. He's always going to smile, he's never going to smile. That's what he said, sorry. He's never going to smile. If you look at the run, he doesn't smile.